And welcome back, everyone, to Live Now from Fox. We learned this week some big revelations. Senator Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley revealed earlier this week that the FBI's election-related investigation into President Donald Trump, launched in 2022, swept in dozens of Republican entities, including the late Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. So we want to continue to talk a little bit more about this. Obviously, Charlie Kirk in the news of late from the assassination. I do want to bring in our next guest to help break it all down. Eric O'Neill, former FBI agent. Great to have you on here. And let's just talk a little bit about this investigation and why it may have focused so much on these Republican entities.
Well, I can't say why it focused so much on one party over the other. When you focus an investigation, particularly when you're in the FBI, it's very critical to not allow bias to weigh in when you are searching out the facts. It makes your investigation impure. It makes you avoid the facts. And in fact, when you go into any investigation with bias, you will find the outcome that you want to find, and that is not justice. So it certainly doesn't look like it passes the smell test to me.
Yeah, there's such good points there, because you're right. If you are looking and really gravitating towards an entity or someone, that you are probably more than likely going to find something if you keep digging.
That's true. And sometimes when investigators want to find an outcome, they will just continue to dig until they find something that makes them feel like they got close. And that might not be the outcome they were searching for, but they could find some other crime or some other impropriety and go with that. And that can be very problematic. The job of an investigator is to pursue a potential crime or problem, or back in my day, hunt a spy or a terrorist, not to continue to investigate until you find something.
And just how long would these investigations go? They pulled in, Turning Point and other Republican groups. How deep do you think they were digging into these entities?
Well, I can't say how deep they were digging, because I'm not exactly sure what they were seeking to find. I don't understand the reasons for looking at what appears to be, from the reports that are coming out, primarily entities on one political side, the Republican Party. It seems odd that would be that. I think the purpose of the investigation was to see if there was Russian interference, if I recall correctly. So I don't understand why there would be such a deep look into one party over the other. You would be looking wherever the facts led you, not pursuing some sort of cause.
And obviously, this was a time, let's go back to 2022, where the federal government was putting a lot of pressure on President Trump. He already had sights to try to come back to the White House. So it seemed like at that moment, back in 2022, if you remember, it seemed like all of the forces of the federal government were trying to prevent a possible run by President Trump.
It certainly looks like that. And if that is true, if what's coming out in this report is true, if it's run down, then that would be political interference. You know, in a democracy, you don't interfere with your opponent. You run your race, you let them run their race, and then you let the people decide which of the ideas they will back. And that's how we function in the country. So it would be repugnant to democracy for a party to investigate or over-investigate their political opponents.
And Eric, I think a lot of people look at these investigations that Congress does. They find these reports that have come out about this investigation from the FBI and DOJ, but it doesn't ever really seem like there's any recourse or anything that really happens. And I think that's where the public says, you know what, they continue to bring these kind of, accusations up, but we never see anything that comes from it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, whichever party is in power in Congress, in the House, has the ability to run these investigations and pursue them, and sometimes in a very partisan way. And as the House changes hands from party to party, you see the investigations go one way or the other. But it doesn't seem like a lot happens at the end of them. You can see the investigations after the pandemic didn't really lead to a lot. And here, I'm not sure what will happen. Although, if you look at what's happening at the FBI, there are a lot of people who are losing their jobs at the top tier executive level. And that might be a repercussion of these sorts of investigations.
And do you think that's what it needs to happen to get these investigations not to be partisan, but, okay, if it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, if you did something bad, they are going to go the way that the investigation goes, rather than trying to say, you know what, you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, and we got to focus something in on you?
Well, if we're talking about the FBI, which is my background and experience, there should never be, like I said, bias in the investigation. And in fact, when I was undercover in the Robert Hansen investigation, and I was just trying to catch him, I remember the case agent working with me said something really brilliant. It comes from an FBI instructor called Charlie Donlin, and he said, "We are witnesses of the truth. It is our foremost priority. Truth is a splendid wild stallion whose presence will give us unparalleled strength. If we try to saddle it with our own purpose, its power and satisfaction will never ride our way again." And I've never forgotten those words. That basically says that when you are investigating, you have power, and you have to follow the facts where they lead and not let your own ideas or bias or politics move where that investigation goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great quote there, and there's such great insight. And I want to get your thoughts on what is it like for an investigator where you are just trying to find where the truth leads, and you may get some higher ups above you saying, hey, well, you know, why are you going that way with it? We need to focus on this. Oh, I mean, what does that do to an investigator when they're just trying their best?
Oh, I'm smiling because I have been in that situation so many times. There is always a tension between the field operatives who are doing the day-to-day work and understand how to conduct these investigations, and people who are at the top who might be appointed, who might have come up, who might not understand the precise work that you're doing, who are telling you something different. And that's always a tension. It exists in every business, agency, and government on earth. But as a field investigator, you just have to put your nose down and do your work, and once again, not let bias corrupt that pure investigation of the facts.
Yeah, so well said there. Eric, thanks so much for joining us, as always, giving us some great insight, and we appreciate all of your updates as well.
Thank you.